South Africa's parliament was plunged into complete chaos today in what insiders are hailing as the most dramatic sitting in democratic history. What had started out as a tense but fairly ordinary debate on the nation's precarious economic upturn rapidly descended into an historic political earthquake. Top justice officials dropped the bombshell without warning that several arrest warrants had been signed purportedly against some of the country's most influential names. The tension had been simmering well before the announcement. The day's proceedings began under an unusual atmosphere, MPs murmuring to each other, sidelong glances exchanged across the House, and an extraordinary amount of phone checking between members on both ruling party and opposition benches. Already as the sitting was about to start, there had been whispers in political circles that the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation had made progress in corruption investigations of yesterday, the state capture years. Even seasoned political observers though did not anticipate the disclosure to surface this publicly and at such a high-stakes venue. Following an hour of acrimonious debates about the budget allocations, a Justice Department envoy stood up quietly after making a request for the floor. The Speaker allowed it and a tense silence fell upon the chamber. Slowly, deliberately, the envoy spoke. It is in the public interest to inform Parliament that several arrest warrants have been executed by the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. The envoy continued to describe these warrants as part of high-level corruption probes, cases that involved top people in government as well as the private sector. The instant the words, top people in government, were uttered, the chamber exploded. Opposition MPs leapt to their feet, some accusingly gesturing across the floor, others crying out in unison, "Name them. Name them now." On the ANC benches, seats erupted into frantic whispered huddles. The Speaker gavel struck the desk repeatedly, but the din only increased. Some MPs chanted, "Accountability now," under the high parliamentary roof, their voices reverberating, while others pounded fists on desks in anger. Next followed one of the most dramatic eruptions of the day, an EFF MP voice booming above the din called out, "We told you the thieves are here in this very room." Television cameras at that moment captured President Sir Ramaphosa in close-up, his face inscrutable but strained. Eyewitnesses say the president's jaw clenched before he hunched over toward Justice Minister Ronald Lamola for a quick muffled exchange. Soon Ramaphosa's demeanor appeared to crack, his head tipped back in his chair, a deep exhale on his lips as ANC Chief Pemi Magadina worked the caucus, mouthing instructions and rallying her colleagues. Opposition did not waste time grabbing the political moment. A DAP stood and said, "We cannot sit in a chamber where those embroiled in looting and betrayal of the people still try to legislate for them. South Africa demands better. Arrests need to occur now, not later." In minutes, the EFF, DA, and some smaller parties made a theatrical walkout. They exited chanting, "Arrest the corrupt. Arrest them all," holding placards that appeared to have been brought along beforehand, fueling speculation that they had been tipped off in advance about the Justice Department's release. Within the chamber, ANC MPs criticized the opposition of grandstanding and trying to politicize what they termed a sensitive legal process. But police sources in interviews with journalists on condition of anonymity affirmed that the warrants aimed at those implicated in multi-billion rand tender corruption, criminal foreign currency exchanges, and offshore accounts associated with recent financial data hacks. Security outside the parliamentary complex was quickly reinforced. Witnesses also reported that unmarked police cars were parked strategically along surrounding streets. By mid-afternoon, reports had started emerging that Hawks Police raided a minimum of 2 ministerial residences in Toria and one large private estate in Sandton, which were allegedly owned by a politically well-connected business magnate. Political analyst Dr. Namso Kumalo, while on live TV with ANC, likened the scene as a constitutional earthquake. "This is no longer a political scandal. It's a national reckoning," Kumalo said. "If the people whose names are on those warrants are as high level as our sources say they are, we may be witnessing the beginning of an entire realignment of political power in South Africa. The consequences will not be counted in days. They will be counted in years." Meanwhile, officials within the union buildings informed journalists that the president was caught off guard by the disclosure. His communication staff, caught unawares, rushed to organize an emergency night briefing. A senior advisor said the president was personally shocked and enraged that the details had been revealed on a live parliament broadcast without consulting him first. By 700 hours, the nation's top news networks had moved into wall-to-wall coverage. Red digital countdown clocks started popping up on screens, counting down the hours until what anchors were referring to as the most highly anticipated arrests in post-apartheid history. Reporters thronged, camera in hand, the doors of prominent politicians' residences. Social media went into overdrive in minutes. #Parliament erupts, #Hoys and #corruption crackdown were trending at number 1, 2, and 3 across the country. On TikTok, live streams from outside ministries attracted tens of thousands of watchers. Memes went into wild and crazy circulation, some cheering, others seriously questioning if actual justice was going to be delivered. Not everyone responded with joy. In Kaicha, one of the residents interviewed by SABC News expressed a tired skepticism. "We've seen this movie before. They arrest some, but the big fish swim away. We want to believe this is different, but we've been promised justice too many times." Back in Cape Town, tensions between the two big parties continued to rise through the evening. The parliamentary chamber, now bereft of a significant number of its opposition members, found it hard to turn back to legislative business. The speaker finally adjourned the sitting, citing irreparable disorder and at the extraordinary developments of the day. Outside the building, demonstrators had spontaneously appeared, others with placards bearing the words, "No one is above the law," and jailed the latters. Police stayed on view but held back, not wanting to add fuel to an already incendiary environment. Members of the Hawks indicated that the public announcement in Parliament had been deliberately made to enhance public openness and deter interference in the course of operations. By making the warrants public, investigators had in effect made it politically risky for any officials implicated to seek flight or try to destroy evidence. Nevertheless, questions remained. Why wasn't the president told sooner? Were the opposition placards evidence of coordinated leaks? And perhaps most importantly,